Hi, this is Dr. Liz, and I'm doing a little brief interlude here before my official intro that I recorded weeks ago for this interview because I wanted to say a couple of words about Houston. The Houston area in Texas in the United States has been devastated by a hurricane. The whole city is underwater. I put a link in the show notes for donations if you want to donate for relief efforts for that, just to make that easy for you. I grew up in Texas. I grew up in the Dallas area and then went to school in Austin at the University of Texas at Austin. And I'm very familiar with the Houston area. Galveston was the beach to go to. We dreamed about when we were little. So it's so hard to see the footage come in of all the devastation. I didn't have any loved ones that were really affected, but I'm thinking about the people all the time and just wanted to let them know that. And I'm also thinking about my fellow Floridians as we see a massive storm develop and start to prepare for that one. And as I begin to think about this morning, I may have to evacuate. My anxiety started to rise. I felt my body start to clench and tighten. My stomach starts in my stomach. It moves up to my chest. I felt my breath shorten. You know, I'm an anxiety specialist because I'm so familiar with it. I know it in and out. And then I did pause and take a breath and say, okay, here it is. Here's anxiety. It's a good friend to me now. Now what can I do with it? This whole episode is about anxiety, so I thought I would give my thoughts about it here at the beginning as well, in terms of experiencing it today, experiencing it this morning as I think about having to leave a home that I love, having to think about my home may be destroyed. And what helped me is to breathe into it, absolutely, to use some of my breathing, to take the deeper breath, and then to move into a responsible stance as well. What do I mean by that? Responsible stance is I choose to live here. There's various reasons. I can't exactly move out of the state because of my kids, and I want them to grow up by their dad, and their dad doesn't want to move. But that's not all. I really love this area. I love my home. I love my friendships in this area and the family that I've developed here. And just knowing that is like, okay, I've chosen to live here and deal with the risks that come with it. Every year in Florida, we have a hurricane season. Every year. And we prepare for it. We have all kinds of readiness. I think actually it's even more devastating when a hurricane hits an area that isn't prepared for it, that doesn't have readiness. But we do here in Florida. We have resources. So just moving to that responsible stance helped bring down that anxiety, as well as staying present. Like nothing has happened yet. I'm actually safe in my home. Can I make a list of the few small things that I would take? Yes, I can. Those include my girls' loveys from childhood, their little monkeys that they carry around when they were little bitty, and a couple of items that my parents gave to me. But it's not a huge list. Mainly, it's memories and relationships that live in my heart that I can take with me, and that's always important to remember. And just moving into that space helped to bring down that anxiety, helped me come back to my body. A little bit of yoga, that helped as well. So I went to give my thoughts there, and now I'm going to play the original intro. You know, it's quite a process when you decide to redo a file when you're podcasting. You have to do some rearranging. You have to run it through programs. You have to get it ready all over again. But that was worth it to me. It's a very small price considering what the people in Houston are going through. So I just want them to know my thoughts are with them. All right, here we go. Hi, and welcome to Hypnotize Me, the podcast about hypnosis, transformation, and healing. This is Dr. Elizabeth Bonet, and I'm your host. Today's interview is with Dr. Justin Newman, who is an acupuncture physician in the local area of Miami. We cover all kinds of things in this interview. It wanders quite a bit. We go into past life regression, some of the philosophy of that, and why some kids are born to some families. He was adopted, and I have a brother and a sister that were adopted before my mother got pregnant with my other sister and myself. We talk a little bit about that, and then we move into how he integrates acupuncture and hypnosis and hypnotherapy in his holistic clinic in Miami. So that is a really interesting piece. You can skip ahead to about 1820 or so is about where that information starts if you're not really interested in the past life stuff or his own personal experiences with hypnosis. Here we go. Hi, Justin. Welcome to the Hypnotize Me podcast.
Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for connecting with me this morning. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Wonderful. So let's start off with the question I ask all my guests, which is, what was your first experience with hypnosis?
That's a great question. I had an opportunity to work early on with a group of hypnotherapists, and I had never experienced hypnotherapy at that point. In fact, I think, like many of us, there's so many stigmas around the word hypnosis or hypnotherapy that I had really very little idea of what I was walking into. I think what we see usually is a stage hypnosis, and that's, of course, as you know, wildly different than what you would experience with a therapist.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, to put it mildly. So I was curious. That's what led me to experience hypnotherapy overall. Although I've been interested in mind body, so I wanted to experience something deeper. So I sat with a hypnotherapist, and they led me through just a basic progressive relaxation, some mindfulness and breath awareness work, some visualizations. And you know what? I felt so incredibly relaxed and peaceful and centered. We really only did a basic stress reduction session, although later I experienced a little bit of past life regression, which was awesome.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and which was especially fascinating. We may be a little bit on a tangent at this point, but one of the things that fascinated me most, and this really anchored for me how important it is to continue working with hypnotherapy or hypnotherapists for now the last 15 years.
Because
tell me.
You have a whole clinic. Well, you had a whole clinic with hypnotherapists and acupuncture integrated, right?
We did, yeah, and it's largely from not only how great it is to bring mind and body and energy circulation, let's say, together, but because of how effective each of these therapies are in and of themselves. The synergy, however, is unbelievable, and so that's largely what I've been pursuing now for over 15 years, is how to integrate this model so you can work mind and body and energy, not just as a therapy, but as a coaching and training tool, as a personal development enhancement, so that all of our clients can learn what to do when they're not getting therapy and really make the most of the results they get on a day-to-day basis in their lives going forward.
Interesting. So I want to get back to the past life regression in a minute.
Anytime.
But because I can't let that one go. It's interesting, right?
Yeah, right.
What does that integration look like when you're saying it helps them, work when they're not in therapy? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, walk me through a typical treatment for your client. Like, they walk into the clinic and
let's say something they're dealing with anxiety, panic attacks. I mean, it could be any number of other issues because, we're a whole person, so whatever. But they come in with panic attacks. So they come into the office. We're going to sit down, review some of their medical history, some of the things that seem to have triggered them in the last couple of weeks, especially what's been on their mind, what draws them into our center. So after we set the stage, gaining all the information we need to gain from our client, we will do two things. The first thing we do is therapy. Now, for me, largely I use acupuncture as my main go-to. But in and around the acupuncture, we will suggest, sometimes not on the first visit, because we really have to set the stage and see where the client's interests are at and how motivated they are, because they need to really be interested to go further. But we may, with the acupuncture, include hypnotherapy, or at least some mindfulness techniques or visualizations with them during that session. Afterward, we give them a little bit of life coaching that's specific to their goals, whether it be wellness or stress reduction or empowerment, whatever the case in point is. And so we try to tie these two together, a coaching or counseling session with therapy. And so that when they leave, hopefully they're feeling a little bit better, but that they know, hey, these are some of the things I can do on my own, hopefully simple, convenient things that I can do every day that are going to continue working the benefits of my therapy into my life on a day-to-day basis, integrating those with my lifestyle, and then having some tools at my disposal that I can work long-term throughout my life that might continue making an impact on how I feel and where I'm going. Of course, we do more therapy to reinforce.
Yes.
And sometimes we do have to go deeper. We're really just scratching the surface with our first visit, usually, building rapport and really trying to help, of course. But, usually we don't resolve everything day one, because some of these issues, as you know, and I'm sure your listeners know, may be buried under many, many layers of personality and experience and history, and in our subconscious mind, furthermore, which can be really difficult to get to without the guidance of a therapist or counselor.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's not always day one. Absolutely.
It's a process.
It's a process, and it's a process of trust as well, of trusting, and the person comes in and building the trust between the two of you. I'm imagining, like, once some trust is built, it's like, all right, what are you interested in? Like, we can take this a little bit deeper or further with hypnosis or hypnotherapy if you'd like to do that.
Yes, and I'll tell you, just building on what you said, this trust factor is huge, because I've found on two sides of the coin. One hand, they need to have trust with us as their therapeutic team. And yourself, I'm sure you see this with your clients. We really have to get to know each other before we can do any work professionally. But I found that most of our clients, they don't trust themselves to the level that they need to allow themselves to really, heal and move past some of the issues that have been holding them back. Or they've been giving their power away for so long, that they don't really have the level of connection with themselves that they need to be fulfilled long term. So part of this trust thing is huge. I'm trying to empower the client also. Hey, you're worth it. You're here for a reason. Showing up is 90%, right?
Right. Yeah.
They forget. Usually they come to a doctor or therapist and we're the authority. And maybe we are experts, maybe. But who's a bigger expert in themselves?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
So,
I think that's a good description of therapy is leading the client back to their own trust of their own instincts, their own self, their own power, their ability to change. And therapy is a tool to help them do that. Any kind, acupuncture, hypnotherapy, traditional medical, any of that is a tool for them.
Absolutely.
So let me get back to the past life regression that you mentioned.
Okay, sure.
Nothing's a tangent on this show. All right.
No, this is the beauty of hypnotherapy. The mind is so vast. We can range all over.
Was this something you had read about, or was it like one of your business partners said, hey, let's do this? Or how did that happen?
Well, I've always, even since I was a kid, I've been interested in past lives and reincarnation. And I believe in not only life after death, to oversimplify, but that we ourselves exist through multiple dimensions of reality. And that, I don't want to go off on yet another tangent, because we'll talk about mediums and channeling and all kinds of stuff at that point. But But that aside, I think for almost everybody, it was reading the book, Many Lives, Many Masters.
Yes, I've read it too.
Yeah, right here in Miami, anyway, local psychiatrist risked his whole career to bring this to light. This is what he was seeing in his clients. This is what they were
Yes.
experiencing, you know. And so I was, I guess I was a freshman in high school when I first came across that book. Although I'd been reading
Wow.
yeah, well, before that time, I was already tuned into yoga and Buddhism, and the whole Buddhist framework involves reincarnation, things of that
Yes.
nature. So I'd already been kind of keyed into that stuff.
Was that from your parents? Like, were they Buddhists themselves, or just
No,
very
they were
open-minded, or
no, not that either.
so you just
They're
found it on your
very
own?
well. I think it was probably a backlash to they were very loving parents and still are, but they're very conservative
Uh-huh.
minded. And I was raised in a Jewish family and went through the bar mitzvah and all that stuff. Um, and I guess they were supportive, open, but they weren't really interested in nature or Buddhism or anything like that, or even really exploring the depths of Judaism, for
Mm-hmm.
that matter, the Kabbalah, for example, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and so on. What do they call that? Like the secret teachings or the
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
esoteric, right?
Right.
So yeah, this wasn't them. They were an accountant and an elementary school reading specialist,
Okay.
and that's what they did. They were a teacher and an accountant, and so it was awesome. But on my own, I guess I'd been sort of, left to spend so much time outdoors that I developed a connection with nature and a curiosity to just understand my place within it,
Mm-hmm.
macrocosm, the universe. Those questions were always there on my mind, and of course, I explored what Judaism has to offer, but I wanted to find what related systems have some common thread that run through all religious frameworks, all spiritual beliefs. It was going to Israel as a kid for the first time. We spent the summer there. My
Mm-hmm.
family and I and my brother and another family. We spent the summer, and I realized, hey, as they say, there are many paths to the top of the mountain, but the view from the top is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I continued looking for, hey, what is the truth? What is the common denominator here? And a lot of this came back to the soul, to the self, our higher self,
Mm-hmm.
love, harmony, truth, things of that nature. And so Buddhism and systems within that framework, like the Tantra, which just means weaving or blending of energies. People do that with each other all the time and don't even realize,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then many lives, many masters, reincarnation. Yeah, so I was a kid still, and I had been just really picked it up. I don't want to say random because there are no coincidences, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just fell into my lap. That and my experiences at that time really shaped the direction my life would go in. And past lives and things of that nature have been a curiosity, at least,
Mm-hmm.
for me all this while.
So then we flash forward to when you're now running a whole practice with hypnotherapists, right?
Yes,
And so one of them says, hey, we can do past life regression.
that's pretty much how it happened. It was one of her specialties. There were 6 hypnotherapists working in this group,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody had a specific interest. And that's what happened. We just had a conversation one day. We'd already been working together for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd gone through some basic hypnotherapy with her and a couple of other therapists by that time. So I knew the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went through just a basic progressive relaxation. And we had this as a goal. Hey, let's just keep ourselves open to allowing whatever information may, percolate, if you will, during our session. And
Yeah.
sometimes things will come up and sometimes they won't. But this time I had a very distinct flash of my life in China
Mm-hmm.
from hundreds of years ago. And I was in what what looked like some kind of prison or something with my father, and we were being held there.
Mm.
And yeah, and there were I could see mountains out of the window of the prison, and that's about all I got was this glimpse, this
Mm-hmm.
flash, vivid. Some of the things that interest me the most about this are not only the fact that we can tap into this information, the subconscious mind stores all of it,
Mm-hmm.
but that I I'm adopted. So I was curious to think, being a kid who was adopted into the family that I am,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean? In terms of our familial connections in this life. How do I bring this
Yes.
information to bear on the here and now?
Right. That was actually one of
You
my
know?
my
Oh,
next question was like, how
yeah.
did you find that you integrated it into your current life? Like, what meaning did it hold for you?
Well, I think mostly it reaffirmed a couple of things. On one hand, I believe we choose the family and circumstances around our birth just to set the stage maybe for the karma we have to work out, or the lessons that we have to learn that are specific to our
Mm-hmm.
needs at this time, goals, whatever. Um, but really, it was feeling even more tangibly, if you will, this connection to Asia, to this Eastern wisdom that has been sort of a curiosity with me, as I mentioned, my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Yoga and meditation, and now acupuncture
Yes.
and Tai Chi and all this stuff has been with me since I was a kid. And this, it sort of put a pin in that for me. Like, hey, wait a minute. There are probably influences that are working their way through my life now, even if it's just, habits,
Mm-hmm.
curiosities, whatever it may be. So yeah, I think that my experiences in this past life, and probably countless others, I believe we all have been shaping the direction of my interests and my development all this time.
So it brought some of that together for you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Well said.
interesting. And I'm hearing too, like there's this feeling of we choose our birth parents. And I'm hearing too that there's a synergy there in choosing and the path that you're taking for adoptive parents as well. Like there's a
I
deeper
think
meaning there.
so. I
Mm-hmm.
think so. I think somehow, I'm supposed to be in the adoptive family that raised me.
Mm-hmm. I
You
have
know.
a brother and a sister that are adopted in
Ah,
my own
okay.
family. Yeah.
All right. So, case in point.
Yeah. And it is a interesting, I think, feeling concept. I don't quite know what to call it of absolutely. There's a reason, there's some kind of meaning or purpose that we grew up in the family we did. It wasn't just like
Yes,
random that, my parents happened to adopt two kids from Germany because, it's deeper than that. It wasn't just like, oh, this is
absolutely,
the kid you get, like, no.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even a religious belief aside, if you look out into the universe at night, you'll realize that it's a cosmos rather than a chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Things out there they're organized. It's orderly. It's harmonious. There's a system that's at work. Again, without putting a divine intelligence behind it or anything like that. It's orderly. There's nothing that happens that's kind of a happenstance, willy-nilly.
Mm-hmm. True.
So, so yeah, and in our own lives, least of all.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. So thank you for sharing that.
sure.
We're
Thanks.
gonna
Yeah, thanks for exploring that with me.
Yes, we're going to change tracks a little bit here. I
Okay.
wanted you to talk some about how you work with anxiety with the integration of hypnosis and acupuncture in your practice these days.
That's a great question, because so many people out there have anxieties of one kind or another.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we'll do is we'll do therapy. Acupuncture is incredibly relaxing. It takes all of the anxieties and tensions and stress out of the body and helps to calm and clear your mind and even your emotional framework. It puts you in a deeper level of connection with yourself and your direction and so on. But in and around that, we'll use hypnotherapy to help a person explore some of the origins of why they feel and do and think the way they think. All of that's in their subconscious. So we try to lead them to reconnecting with that in a safe way, a safe space, a sacred space even. With the benefit of hindsight, because they're not reliving those traumas now. We're here in the present.
Right.
And we will do certain other things that I'm sure you're familiar with, like reframe some of the experiences that they have so that they're less vivid, if you will. We'll help them reframe to take the emotional weight out of those experiences so they're just a review.
Yes.
And try to unroll some of those or unweave some of the feelings that have been embedded in their memories of those experiences, whatever they may be. And this is part of what we do with hypnotherapy, besides the suggestions that a person can create within their own mind and body, reference points or landmarks that they can refer to and recreate the same feelings of calm and peace and openness after the session. And that ties into the last piece, which is coaching and counseling.
Okay.
We'll share with them, hey, this is a basic breathing exercise, for example, that you can use throughout the day that'll help you to keep pressure moving and prevent feeling overwhelmed or burnt out or being triggered by anxieties. Hey, this is a visualization you can use to go deeper, or affirmations or other suggestions like that enable them to expand their awareness, reconnect on a deeper level their mind and body so they're more functional as people, and gain a perspective or point of view that really takes them above the level of functioning that left them stuck. Because really, I think anxieties and panics are difficulty handling all of the energy that's coming our way. If the filter of our mind is open enough, then that energy information, it just passes right through and you process it, no problem. But if the filter of our mind is too narrow, or if we're boxing ourselves in and we don't realize it, then we will feel overwhelmed, anybody. So part of it is that, expanding their point of view a little bit and teaching them how to do that conveniently every day so it becomes a part of their lifestyle.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just pausing here for a moment because I'm thinking about it as I've never thought about it as like opening the mind and narrowing the mind, but you're absolutely right. It's like when you get stuck in anxiety, you're generally only thinking about certain possibilities.
Indeed.
Right? Like it's only going to go down this way, and that's what I'm worried about. Right?
Yeah, right. And you know what? You're also typically just seeing the heavy or the negative stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's a small portion. The 99% of what really is happening and will probably be unfolding for you is good.
Yes,
fine.
Yes, and it's just absolutely. We do that in therapy of saying, okay, what are the different ways that we can talk to ourselves about this? What are the different ways we can think about it? What are the possibilities? And also acknowledging that, yeah, your disaster scenario may happen, but let's get comfortable with your ability to handle it.
Yes.
Right. So it's not even saying like, oh, it's never going to happen, because if you ever talk to anyone anxious, like that doesn't work at all. Right. Like,
I know, I've tried that. Like, look, I'm fearful of getting on an airplane, and I'll tell them, look, A, it's the safest way to travel statistically, but B, how many tens of thousands of flights are completed every year? And you know what usually happens? Nothing.
Yeah, right. But
it's fine.
It's like the logical mind isn't working to capacity, right? Like you do have to speak
very diplomatic.
To the emotional side of, all right, that side is taken over. And I'm imagining some of the acupuncture piece is bringing those two sides more into balance.
Yes.
that one energy isn't overwhelming the other.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And then teaching skills that, they can take out of the office and use that too. So I am interested, do you ever use hypnotherapy for clients who, I wouldn't say are scared of needles, but they're a little reluctant, like does that ever happen the opposite way? Some people just imagine acupuncture as they hear the word needle and they're like, oh my God, no. So does it happen the opposite as well?
That is a great question. And I have to tell you, no, it's because I always run them through a very rudimentary orientation session before we do any therapeutic work together. And I demonstrate on myself, so they can see how comfortable it is to experience acupuncture, and that the points of these needles are microscopic. So they're not like other needles. And then if we really want to limit our acupuncture therapy to its most basic, we can really just do one point, just one. And that has an impact on their nervous system and their mind, body, and energy flow and all this stuff. Although to be fair, I do work in a center with other therapists. There are massage therapists that work with us too. And over the years, we've integrated hypnotherapy and the other techniques that fall under that umbrella with different kinds of body work, which could be Reiki, craniosacral therapy, Swedish or other kinds of massage therapy too. So if somebody absolutely won't have needles, or sometimes this is the case with kids, kids don't prefer needles.
Yeah, right.
As you might know. So sometimes we'll take a different tack and either not use the acupuncture right away, or we'll use only a little bit, or we'll take a different route altogether and do a body work with some kind of hypnotherapy or related techniques.
Okay, interesting. Very, very interesting. So it's like, well, let's come at this from different multiple perspectives, not just one.
Yeah, really, the client, as I mentioned, they're the expert in themselves. So whatever's comfortable for them is where I like to start. I tell them, look, this is a holistic practice. So holistic is the whole person. We're looking at your mind, your body, your feelings, your relationships, your environment, and other things. And hey, if there are some things that are triggering you in your environment, we have to look at that. I can't just take a pill because the environment is the same. Or maybe there's something in my relationship that's triggering me. I need to look at that. I need to look at what I bring to the table.
Yes, absolutely.
I did publish a little acupuncture booklet. It's about 40 pages about, it's the secrets of modern acupuncture. This is everything that you want to know about how acupuncture is being used in today's clinics, and it takes all the metaphysical stuff out. It's very simple and direct, for people who may not care about energy so much or chakras or any of this stuff. This is plain.
That's a nice segue for us because we're nearing the end of our time here. So you have the book. Can people get that on Amazon through you?
You can go to Amazon. It's The Secrets of Modern Acupuncture. And it's available, if you're a Prime member, you can download an ebook copy for free. But there are ebooks or print copies you can have print on demand. And I think it's great. I've been practicing as a licensed doctor of acupuncture for almost 20 years. And so this distills a lot of my experience in the clinic with questions other people have asked me. These are like the top 10 things you need to know about how acupuncture is being used today. And it's in the book. It's, like I said, a booklet, so it's very readable.
Wonderful. So where else can people find you if they're local to Miami?
You can contact me through my website. It's the Banyan Holistic, Banyan like the tree, holistic.com. You can contact me through there. And then, of course, we can always meet here in Miami for an orientation session. They are free because somebody may not know if holistic really is for them. So I always like to sit down with them anyway and kind of, walk them through what their expectations might be and how we can meet them with that. And or if they're far away, I do coaching sessions with them via Skype or Facebook video or some other similar platform if they wish.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I'll put the website as well as a link to the book in the show notes for people so they can easily access that. So thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate your time and being on the podcast.
Thank you for your time, and for connecting with me. This was a great opportunity to meet with you and share some information today.
So we'll be right back with my thoughts. It is thundering and raining here in South Florida while I record my final thoughts. I just edited the interview, so you may hear some rain and thunder in the background. This is the summer and I'm recording this in the rainy season. It rains almost every day here. I really enjoyed hearing Dr. Newman's perspective on how he treats and handles anxiety and panic in his holistic practice, how he comes at it from several different angles. I always enjoy hearing about how other people work with anxiety. I'm an anxiety specialist myself. I love working with anxiety and integrating both cognitive behavior therapy and hypnosis to help anxiety. But there's all kinds of ways to help reduce anxiety. Acupuncture, massage, hypnotherapy, recovery. Recovery is a wonderful way to help bring down anxiety. There's all kinds of recovery programs. Actually, you don't have to be just an alcoholic or a drug addict. There's overeaters. There's sex and love addiction, which I talked about on a podcast recently. There's Under-Earners Anonymous and Debtors Anonymous and Gambling Anonymous. There's all these programs. There's adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. So maybe you didn't come from an alcoholic family, but you came from a dysfunctional family that created a lot of anxiety for you. That's a lovely program to help work through some of those issues and those feelings for free. It's wonderful. Anyway, that's a little plug for recovery programs. But my point here is that there's all kinds of different ways to approach it. At some times in your life, you may need this, and at other points in your life, you may need that. And that's okay. That's a good process to be aware of, that different times you need different things. We all do. As we go through life, different times we need different things. So please let me know your thoughts around this. I absolutely love getting emails from listeners, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Dr. Liz Bonet, pretty easy to remember, right? Dr. Liz Bonet. Or Dr. Newman, he loves getting emails too. He is actually a big networker here in South Florida, and he is a helper. He just wants to help you get to the right person to help you. So you can always hit him up as well. Okay, people, have a wonderful week. Peace. If you like this episode, do me a favor and rate, review, and subscribe on whatever player you like. Or even better, tell a friend so that more and more people learn about hypnosis and how it can be helpful for them. If you want to know more about me, head over to drlizhypnosis.com. That's DRLIZ hypnosis.com. You can see the downloads and see if there's one that's helpful for your life. Or you could also join the newsletter and get a couple of free files, as well as lots of good content. I've written a newsletter for well over 10 years. Go ahead and subscribe and join the rest of the world. All right, people, have a wonderful week.